Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up podcast. Solly here. Got an interview coming shortly with Austin Eckroat, winner of the Cognizant Classic this year. Just played his first Masters, played at Oklahoma State, second-year player out on the PGA Tour. Good to chat with him about his progression as a pro golfer, getting in the signature events, playing in his first Masters, what it's like to play Augusta, all kinds of really fun stuff in this one. Been looking forward to chatting with him for some time. We are, of course, proud to say Season 9 of Torah Sauce is presented by our longtime partners at Precision Pro Golf. New episodes premiere every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on the No Laying Up YouTube channel. We traveled to Australia. We will have episode 3 out this coming week as we make our way back to Melbourne, play St. Andrews Beach and Lonsdale Links. And you guys know about the variety of No Laying Up designs they offer for the NX10 rangefinder. They're adding another one to the mix to commemorate Torah Sauce Season 9. It's an awesome design. It's got a nod to Australia. It's got the Wayward Golfer logo on it, set on a background inspired by a jar of Vegemite. The NX10 is fast, accurate, and reliable rangefinder. All the features you would expect and the added touch of an NLU design. I love these products. They're fantastic. They're great for you. They're great for a friend or a relative or some Father's Day coming up. Start thinking about asking for a Precision Pro Golf rangefinder. If you have an older Precision Pro model like the NX7 or NX9, don't forget about their trade up program. Returning customers get 30% off a new rangefinder purchase when upgrading to the latest and greatest Precision Pro has to offer. And code NLU at precisionprogolf.com will get you $20 off your NX10 rangefinder. Support the brands that make content like Torah Sauce possible by going to precisionprogolf.com, shopping for your next rangefinder today. And once again, use code NLU to get $20 off. Without any further delay, here's Austin Eckroat. All right, I had not seen the little docu-series you'd done for the PGA Tour called The Turn. It picks you up last fall. You're coming off a miscut at the Shriners. Hop on a plane to Japan. You don't play great in Japan. You're not playing great at the time. Could you have pictured just a few months later around that time that you'd be a PGA Tour winner and you'd be teed up in the Masters?
Yeah, it was a wild turn of events for sure. Yeah, the series we did in the fall was kind of fun. Got used to a camera following you around everywhere you went. Wasn't as fun whenever they were following me to the locker room on Friday afternoon after a missed cut, but it's just a cool experience. And to look back and think that PGA Tour winner, like you said, and competed in the Masters. It's just been a crazy run. Happened quick, but couldn't be happier.
But it's interesting. A note I took away from that was, we as fans, we don't get to watch every golf shot, right? We,
Mm-hmm.
you see the results and, you're trying to think who's coming next, what's going on. You look at it, you see miscut, you think he's playing bad. He's playing poorly.
Right.
You walked off and you were like, honestly, a positive takeaway, like adjustments I've made in my golf swing are starting to pay off. Right. And then
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like I'm just kind of wondering in this learning phase, and we'll zoom back up to when you win a PGA Tour event, but how do you use the PGA? How do you use PGA Tour starts as a learning phase, right? Of learning this
Yeah.
new style of golf, new competitive structure that you're playing in.
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying, like Coach Bratton, my college coach, used to always say, when you're playing well, you're never that far away from, struggling a little bit. That means the same thing when you're struggling, you're never that far away. On camera, it'll look pretty much the same. The swing, everything's there. It's just it's a funny game during that time period. Like the game was close. It's what I kept saying. I'm close. It's not
Everybody
too far
always says
away.
that, though. Everybody,
Yeah,
you always hear that.
yeah, you do hear it, but it's so true because it's just you're on a thin line the whole time of playing good golf and playing poorly, and it's just the difference of feeling comfortable over over the ball and stuff. But the swing is never too far away. Obviously sometimes it is, but in that case it wasn't.
Do you adjusting from college to PGA Tour? Do you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of wondering year by year, as you've worked your way up through status, through the Korn Ferry Tour and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you when you got out there and you had some starts as an amateur in tour events, if I remember right as well?
Yeah.
As soon as you see what goes on there, how do you go back to the lab and you say, all right, here's what needs to change. Here's what needs to change. Like, was there a wake up call of any kind, either from the competitive structure and the guys you're going up
Mm-hmm.
against, or golf courses that you were playing that you were like, okay, here's what I need to succeed going forward?
Yeah. I mean, luckily I had, teammates that in
Yeah.
college that went out and had immediate success. So I kind of knew where my game stacked at that point. If they would have came out and struggled, when they turned professional, I've been, I got some work to do. But, I felt like I played the US Open in 2019 as a sophomore in college. I played some practice rounds with Dustin Johnson. I played with Rory in a practice round. I had some incredible practice round experiences. And, you don't really think of those two guys as great chippers. And to watch them, chip around the green. I mean, they're not considered anywhere near the best chippers, and they were incredible around the greens.
Mm.
And I think that's something that, I've gotten a lot better at. I struggled when I first came out was with just the short game. You don't realize how close those guys hit it from, very difficult spots. The way they set up PGA Tour golf courses, you're going to leave yourself awkward chips all the time. And, you're watching on TV and they chip it to 4 feet and you don't think anything of it, but it's a lot harder to do than it looks like.
Well, how much of that too is another thing we don't really see that well in stats is like missing in the right place, right? I mean,
Right.
it seems like that pins find the corners on the PGA
Mm-hmm.
Tour, right? And has
Yeah.
there been a learning curve at all in terms of just understanding your shot dispersion and where to miss?
Right. Yeah, I think it's something that McCaddy Stone and I have done a really good job over the last year is we've kind of came up with a strategy that works for us where when we're walking a golf course, he comes up with a number, on a short-sided miss on the difficulty of the chip. Basically, what's the difficulty of the up and down from the short-sided miss? Because sometimes it's not that bad,
Mm.
and you can attack the flag even in if you're having a longer club in or anything. But he's got a good strategy to where he has it's not always right. Sometimes it's harder than he thought it was, but it's worked for us really well over the last year. It's kind of when we started doing it. I think it's kind of limited those just unforced errors that happen out there from the short-sided misses. I think everybody comes up with their own little method to that. Obviously, improving the chipping helps that for sure.
Well, it seems like too. There is something to having seen tour golf courses for a year, right?
Yeah.
Coming back and just like, I'm sure there's still times you learn a lesson of like, gosh, I played a practice round, I wrote it
Right.
down, I should have known not to be here, but now I'm here and
Right.
I'll never make this mistake again.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's just also the familiarity of coming back to another place. You know where player registration is when you get on site. You know where player dining is. You know where the locker room is, and it's just that first year it's kind of stressful.
Sure.
It's just you don't know where you're going. You don't know where the putting green is when you get on property. So it's just the little things like that that you don't really think of when you're thinking of being a rookie. But obviously you can look back on past experience too. I've this year at like I said, we're going to get into it later, but the Cognizant, for a good example, I missed the cut last year. I didn't play. I hit it in all the wrong spots, so I knew exactly where not to go going this year. So it was, just simple things like that. Looking back, you try not to think about all the poor shots you hit, but you know where not to go anymore. So
Well, that's why I found that rewatch interesting, is it's a
yeah,
lot more weeks on tour, like that docuseries you did are like that than
yeah.
people are going to know you a lot more from watching in the back nine of the Cognizant. Well, it was a Monday finish. I hope people were still able to watch, but
I don't think so.
it made it challenging for us working staffs that
Yes.
got to work through the course of the week. But so you show up to Cognizant week, missed the cut the week before.
Mhm.
Is it a golf course that should I don't know how analytic you are about stats and
Mhm.
course fit and things like that? Should, in your mind, should it fit your game? And did you walk off last year saying like, oh, I should play well in this place and just didn't?
Yeah, I mean, when I think of my golf game, I don't really try to think of courses that suit it. I feel like when you're playing well, you're going to play well
Sure.
regardless of where it is. Looking at that golf course, it should suit my game pretty well. You have to drive it straight. You have to hit the irons pretty well, and that's what I did all week. But yeah, I love that golf course. I remember I played a junior event out there. Um, I played it a few times before, and I really knew I liked the golf course, but I played so terrible the year before. But it wasn't the golf course; it was where the status of my game was at that point. So it's just, I try not to look into the analytics too much because I don't want to come in with a negative mindset going into the week. This course just does not suit my game. You
That's a
know,
good point. That's a really good point. Did it? I guess a long week like that, rolling into Monday, you're in contention the whole time. You're in the lead. Is that a good thing? Like that it's taking this long? Does it? Do you wake up Sunday thinking like, all right, well, or do you wake up Monday saying like, all right, well, I thought Sunday was going to be the final day.
right?
Now the extra bonus day, I got some nerves out. I'm just curious if the length of that week is something that you think would maybe end up helping you.
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously it was difficult on everybody that was trying to win, so I think I handled it well. So that kind of, I guess, could have been a benefit to me. It was tough though. I mean, to sleep on a lead technically for 2 nights in a row, and I really felt it Monday evening whenever we finished up. I was beat. It's funny. Both times I've been in contention on tour, the Byron Nelson and the Cognizant. There was rain delays, and I was dealing with all that stuff, and both times on the Corn Ferry Tour I was in contention, there was a rain delay in the final
Mm.
round. So it's like every time I've been in that situation, I've had, that experience to draw off, I guess, was, having rain and having weather issues. So um, it was a really cool experience, and I'll take a Monday finish every time if they equal out, that way. But
So say, it
next
sounds
time
like you like soft golf courses, right? If
yeah,
all
I
of your
guess so,
contention
maybe.
is on in rain delays.
Yeah, no
Uh,
joke.
well, there's something too as well. Like uh, so much of pro golf is like, dude, you got to pick up your clubs, you got to travel, you got to like
Hmm.
do what's right in front of you. The golf course might
Right.
not be a perfect fit for you. The weather might not be what you want. The
Hmm.
wind might not be what you want. The grass might not be what you want. You might not be on the right sleep schedule. You might not have the proper rest. But like that's the part that the longer I cover this, watching you guys go from spot to spot, week to week. Like again, watching you go Shriners to Japan, land
Yeah.
on Tuesday, jet lag. No, you got to tee it up Thursday, man. Like it's time. Everybody's doing it, but like it's
Yeah.
time. You got to go do it. Me, if one little thing is wrong, if it's 58 degrees instead of 65, I'm in trouble. But like you guys just pick it
Yeah.
up and you just go.
That's what's been kind of fun. I think that was a hard part transitioning from college.
Mm,
You just, in amateur golf and junior golf, college golf, you don't play that many consecutive weeks in a row versus whenever you're out here, you play, you'll get on a run of playing 6, 7 tournaments in a row, especially as a rookie. You get kind of used to it, but it's definitely not easy. I remember I was playing, that rookie category. You're the last tee times out of your wave. I had started to play well, and you can move out of that, category. And it was the week after the U.S. Open, and we were flying all the way to Connecticut. So we're traveling east, and I had the first tee time at 6:10, so it felt like I teed off at like 3:10 in the morning. It was just like I flew in Sunday night, or I think Monday actually, and had Tuesday, Wednesday of prep, and then it felt like I had a 3:10 tee time on Monday or on Thursday morning. So it's kind of funny how that stuff works out, but you get used to it, and um, obviously it's just part of the job.
how do you talked about learning some things about chipping. What did you go change anything after that? Do you work with anyone in particular, or like kind of how do you improve in your short game, and do you feel like you've made strides in your short game?
For sure, and I think statistically it says I
Yeah.
have. I think I was that first year when I was playing on sponsor exemptions. If you look at the equivalent statistics, I was pretty far back there. It was never a strike issue. It wasn't an inconsistency with strikes, or I caught them solid. I just wouldn't hit them close, and I think it was just honestly putting in time. There's not been a whole lot of fundamental changes I've made. A couple, but nothing dramatic, and you couldn't tell the difference between 2020 and 2024 now on camera. But just I'm putting in time and learning the proper shots, and controlling my spin better. Just the simple things that are what make all the difference when it comes to hitting it to 4 feet rather than 2 feet. Hitting it 2 feet closer, you're making 99% of your putts versus 90. It's a huge difference.
That was one of the biggest takeaways I had from reading Mark Brody's book was like
Hmm.
chip it close or it doesn't matter. It may
Hmm.
sound obvious, but like there's almost no point in chipping it to 10 feet of something. Like there's
Yeah.
no benefit. Might as well chip to 25, right? Like
Yeah.
over the course of time, you're not going to make that many more putts from 10 feet compared to if you're chipping it inside 5 feet, like with the difference that
Exactly.
can make. Yeah. Which
Yeah.
again
So
can come
some.
back to where you're missing too, because sometimes
Mhm.
10 feet is a great shot from around the green. Whereas if you're chipping straight up the hill, you're just going to be able to leave it in easier spots.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's just. I mean, that comes down to the course strategy, getting the proper prep in. But that's the hard part. You don't want to overdo the prep, and then be worn out on Thursday. It's just you got to find the good balance, and that's something that I think year two on the PGA Tour you start to figure it out, and I think that's why this season's just going a lot better than it was last season. Just the golf game's not much different. It's just understanding how to play on the PGA Tour.
The most maddening thing too about it is the good golf comes from like really boring golf and like really
Hmm.
safe shots into greens and not like it's so
Yeah.
frustrating. It's not the way anybody wants to play it, but it's
No,
so true. It really is.
it is. I mean, you look at the way Scottie Scheffler plays golf. It's very, very simple. Very, he just hits the fairway, hits the green, makes a putt every once in a while, and wins the tournament by 5 strokes. It's.
What's it like to compete against that guy?
I've played against him for a long time. My freshman year of high school, or every year of high school, but my freshman year we would go down to Dallas for our first two events. So he was a senior my freshman year, and I finished second to him twice in a row in those two events, and then played together for a year in college. Probably similar success. He's beaten me by couple strokes, and I had Matt and Victor on my team, so I was probably finishing fourth at best. He's always been fantastic, and then I mean he's hit a different stride over the last 12, 18 months. So
That's what we've joked, like we need to come up with like more creative ways to just describe how good he is, and I'm struggling with
yeah,
it. But it's like you ask any pro like yourself about it too. It's just kind of like, yeah, man, it's really hard to describe. It's
it
really
is.
this next level, though. I mean, he's gotten that
Hmm.
appreciate. Almost no people at your level almost don't want to admit it. Of like, yeah,
Right.
I don't know
Yeah.
how we're gonna beat that guy.
Well, it's just crazy. I mean, I didn't think he was playing RBC just because I had seen the coverage and, Meredith was close to having a baby. And then I see Ted Scott on 9 fairway. I'm playing my practice round. He was just walking the golf course. I'm like, what the hell is he doing out here? I had
No.
yeah, no. Yeah, now we're playing for second. Sick. No, I'm just kidding. But it was funny that week too because he got off to a slow start. I think he shot, around par the first round and nowhere in the lead. And then next thing you know, 4 rounds later, he was just, holding up another trophy. But like we were talking about, he's doing it in a simple way. It's not like he's doing anything outrageous. He's not, hitting it to a foot on every hole. He's just, hitting the fairway, hitting the green, and making a putt every once in a while. That's how you play good golf.
Can you glean anything from that? Right? I mean, because
Yeah,
he doesn't possess like overly physical, like the way Tiger did it was just a way
yeah,
of like, dude, no one else has that, right?
right,
And the way
yeah.
Scottie, I don't get that impression that people feel that way
Hmm.
about Scottie. Like, can you glean anything, even at your level, from somebody that's outperforming everybody right now at a
Right.
totally different pace?
I kind of think that's what's so impressive. It's not like he's doing something that much better than everybody else. He's not hitting it way longer than everybody. He's not dominant in any one category. He's just very good at everything. He does everything right. He doesn't make the mistakes that other guys are making. I mean, you're playing 4 rounds in a row. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna hit it in poor spots, and he's just not doing it. And it's so incredible. I mean, you look back on the week, and it's just he's at 22 under, and the rest of the golf course was playing to 17 under. It's incredible.
The one that blew my mind was over the past 3, 6, and 12 months. He is first in strokes gained off the tee,
Yeah,
approach, and around the green. Over any
that's
period of
crazy.
time, in all
Yeah,
three things that aren't putting, he's number one over any stretch of time. Like it's just
and now he's starting to putt good too.
I
So
know it's kind of scary.
it's getting a little scary.
No Laying Up is sponsored by FanDuel. Whether you're playing golf or betting on it, there's nothing worse than first tee jitters. But with FanDuel, you can crush your first bet off the tee goods right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed with any $5 bet. That's $150, win or lose. A lot of great opportunities this coming week for the Byron Nelson CJ Cup at the Byron Nelson. I forget what it's called now, but you can go for the green all PGA Tour season long. Bets like longest drive, closest to the pin, outright winners, all kinds of top 10, 20, blah, blah, blah plays. They got a tremendous golf offering. They got women's golf. They got majors. They got Grand Slam odds, all kinds of great stuff. FanDuel.com/NLU. Hit your first bet right down the middle of the fairway with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, an official betting operator of the PGA Tour. Must be 21 and older, 18 and older in D.C. and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Back to Austin Eckroat. I've heard guys say things like they're more nervous on a Friday near the cut
Hmm.
line than they are on the back nine when they're in contention. Now that you were in contention, you finished second at the Byron
Hmm.
Nelson in 2023. You obviously won the Cognizant this year. Can you add any perspective into that? Because the color I hear is like, yeah, you're playing well, obviously, when you're in contention and you don't get as
Right.
nervous, but kind of compare the nerves of what that's like. Because on TV, sometimes it doesn't look like you guys are nervous.
Yeah, I've always thought Fridays afternoons are the most stressful day, in professional golf. Saturday morning you wake up and it's like, you get a nice relaxing round, you can just go play golf. Especially that rookie year, I'd say, more so for me this year. I've been a little bit more relaxed on those Fridays just because you know how important those points are. You need to make that cut your first year. You need to, now I've got a win under my belt, I think I'm able to take on more risk on Thursday, Friday. I can just try to go win golf tournaments now because I have, status locked up. It's a lot easier to birdie your last hole to win a golf tournament, I think, than it is to birdie your last hole to make a cut because one, you're playing great if you're leading the golf tournament and your game's in a good spot versus where, when you're fighting on that cut line, something's off. It's not the game's not perfect that week, but it doesn't mean you can't have a good week. But something doesn't feel great So I mean, making a birdie on the last hole cut is
Hmm.
always so difficult, and it's just it's just a stressful position to be in, battling the cut line. I think a good example is last week, Chris Gotterup and I played the Zurich Classic together, made the cut on the number. I missed a little dinker on the ninth hole for us to fall to 8 under, and then, we ended up having a good weekend and finished 11th place. It's just, if you make the cut, you have a chance to have a good week, and it's just Fridays are just stressful.
I'll say, is there anything too? I remember Brooks having a quote way back in the day of like, when I was like trying to make cuts, I was right around the cut line. When I was trying to
Yeah.
top 25, I was right around top 25. When I was trying to top 10, I was right around top 10. Like, is there an evolution at all for you of like, I just heard you say like Fridays are the most stressful. Like to me, that
Yeah.
sounds like, oh gosh, I am thinking about the cut when I tee it up
Yeah.
first day.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, when your game's in a good spot, you're going to the week trying to win it, and then, but what's funny about professional golf too, I remember I could play the Mayakoba, the Worldwide Technologies event as a senior in high school, or senior in college, sorry, not high school. I was in like 10th place on Thursday, but I was only 2 shots ahead of the cut line. And it was like, that golf course is super narrow. And this was like one of my first experiences playing professional golf. And that golf course is super narrow with, if you miss it offline, it's lost ball, it's gone forever. And it's like, man, I'm one bad swing away from not playing on Saturday. But you got to figure out a way to not think about that stuff. And like I said, I think this season, having the win under my belt now, it's just, you know, I'm not as stressed out on Friday afternoons just because I'm gonna be okay if I miss the cut. It's just a different mindset, I think.
How long? At what point are you thinking about all that comes with a PGA Tour win, right? And what's like,
Mhm.
what is the number one thing, right? When you go sign that car, when you make that final putt, are you like, oh, I'm in the Masters, oh, 2 year exemption, oh, I'm in signature event? Like, what is the thing that you're like, holy crap, this comes with a win? Now let's go.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the job security. I have, the rest of this season and 2 years after that, that was kind of the biggest thing, especially just being young on the PGA Tour. It's just there's no, guarantees in this line of work,
And
and,
everybody says this, like
yeah,
you truly, people don't have like the appreciation for how hard it is just to keep your card every
yeah,
year. Like you're an injury away from all of a sudden being on medical,
mhm,
a couple months of bad swinging away from like wondering if you're going to stay exempt. Like it's
right.
so freaking competitive for those spots.
Yeah, that's what I played golf with some of the, veterans out here. I played with Lucas Glover and Stuart Sink in San Antonio a couple weeks ago, and Lucas Glover's he's made like over 500 cuts on the PGA Tour. It's like he's been on tour for over 20 years. When I think of stuff like that, that's so impressive. To have a career that's that long. Obviously, he's won a few times, and that's given him status, guaranteed. But to maintain status for 20 years and competitive for that long, I mean, that's just as impressive as a lot of other things. I think that but it doesn't get a whole lot of recognition for sure.
Last thing before we get to the Masters is what you mentioned some adjustments you made to your golf swing, like from the numbers show out in terms of off the tee you've gained, approach game you've gained. What are the specific
Mhm.
adjustments and kind of what's the process like of I've got status yet at the same time I want to make some changes to my golf swing and try to
Right.
compete better. How do you go about that? Because I'm fascinated with the tug and the pull of those relationships.
Yeah. When I first got on, turned professional, I was kind of a higher swing speed guy than I am now. I was probably at 119 club speed, 178 ball speed in that range. If I pushed, I could get 120, 180. And then, I just played so much. I wasn't focusing a whole lot on my body. I was just, mainly focusing on golf, and I just kept getting slower and slower and slower. I got to a point last season where, I was swinging at 112 miles an hour with my driver and pushing barely 170 ball speed every once in a while. And that just makes the game so much harder. There was some errors in my swing. The body wasn't feeling great. And I think this season, starting back to, the end of last season, I really started putting a focus on my body, and the speeds have been jumping back up. Slowly, I'm getting closer to where I was. Obviously, there's been some fundamental changes I've made, but nothing really that serious. It's just, with my body feeling better, I'm able to, get in the positions that I, are able to create some power from. The driving stats have gone up. I think even last season with hitting slower swing speeds, I've always been a straight driver of the ball, and I was still pretty good driver on tour. I struggled with the irons a lot last season. To see that stat kind of coming back, that's always been my strongest point of my game has been, ball striking. And, I think with that coming back, it's been a huge benefit to my game for sure.
When you say take better care of your body, what's kind of the split there between, say, flexibility and strength, right?
Mhm.
It's I'm guessing it's not just doing curls in the gym. Like,
Yeah.
what's the relationship with how you've taken better care of your body, like translating to swing speed?
Yeah, I mean, one, I got back into the gym, so some more curls were being done, but not not that's not the main focus. Yeah, I think that's something that was great about college is we had such a structured program. We had when we were on at home, we had but you have to go. There's no, we're required to go. Then you turn professional, it's all on your own, and it's easy to start getting a little lazy when it comes to that stuff. But yeah, a lot of flexibility work, a lot of strengthening with mobility, but then also just a lot of just your traditional lifting coming back. Something I always did, and I think that, the strength itself is a huge improvement for speed, and then also just the flexibility. I went and worked with Greg Rose at the TPI facility, and we did some evaluations, and just to see where my body had, started to get really tight. I had no mobility in my thoracic spine, no mobility in my right ankle, no mobility in my right hip, no mobility in my right shoulder. I had no mobility last season in the right side of my body. And we were able to kind of diagnose that and come up with a program to improve that. And a month later, I won at the Cognizant after
Wow,
seeing him. So it was pretty
that's
pretty
awesome.
cool. I've got a team around me now, and we've got a good program. And it's funny. So the recovery trailers and the workout trailers at on tour that we have, and we have access to them, and they're fantastic. The first time I ever used them was at the Byron Nelson last year, and that was when I finished second. So I've been taking advantage of all the stuff we have now. But when I first got out there, I was not. I was just, trying to figure out how to hit the golf ball further without doing anything about
Hmm.
it.
Well, a few of our guys just did the TPI thing like a couple weeks ago and came back just
Yeah,
raving about it. 4 days later,
it's
they're like,
awesome.
"My glutes are still sore," and I learned about all my deficient everything you just described. I laugh because it's like, oh yeah, wait till you get to you're 37, man. Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot less hip mobility going on
Oh
this side
yeah.
of the microphone, so I can relate to that at least a little bit. But gosh, that's incredible that the payoffs were that quick, and
Yeah.
it it's got to be good for endurance too. I mean, in terms
Hmm.
of like just weariness from the road and energy
Yeah.
to last all these weeks long. Like, dude, I come home from covering one of your guys' events and I'm like a ghost the next week. I'm so
Right.
exhausted. Like how you guys pick up and go and compete again the next week. And then the next week is what remains. Have you learned much about that in terms of, all right, if I'm playing this many consecutive, I'm taking this day off, even if I'm
Yeah.
in town for this event, I'm not going to do anything. Have you learned anything about that?
Yeah. Most of the time, I take Monday off.
Yeah.
When I get to a new event, unless I feel like I need to work on something, maybe I'll go out and hit some putts. But for the most part, I take Monday off. It's you play. I just got off a run of 4 in a row, and I mean it beats you down. I think there was a stretch last season where I maybe did 10 in a row, and it's a beat down if you play that much golf. You don't think of golf is that much of a strenuous sport, but just the travel and the wake up times is something that I think's kind of not spoke about. Is one day you're teeing off at 1 o'clock, the next day you tee off at 7:15, and you got that 4 o'clock wake up call, and the day before you could sleep until 9:30 if you wanted to, and it's just I think just the inconsistency in your sleep schedule and all that stuff. It wears you down a little bit. So I think like this week I'm taking off. It's just every now and then you gotta take one off, and it
You
sucks to
finished
do because
second
I
here
want to
last
play.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I know. I was talking to Lee Hodges about that. We were playing together. Forget where we were at, but he said I was like, we were talking about the schedule, and if I played this week, it'd been 9 in a row. I'm splitting up a 2 4 week run right now. I was like, man, but I really want to play Byron Nelson because I finished second there last year. He's like, let me give you some advice. Just because you played well there in the past does not mean you're going to play well there again. And I was like, you know what? It's a good point. So he said, I've done that before. And when I'm 3 shots outside the cut line on Friday afternoon, I was like, why the hell did I play this week? But
That's the worst place you can be, is kind of half in, half out, and then playing bad
exactly.
of like, oh man, I just wasted so much energy with this. But
Yeah.
so tell me about your first Masters.
Hmm.
Again, you win in February. Do you make an advanced trip there? Had you been to Augusta? Had you
Yeah.
played it before? Like kind of tell me about your preparation process, and I'm curious if you fell in the trap of playing too many practice rounds at your first Masters, like a lot of people do.
Yeah, so after I won, I took off Houston and I went to Augusta National and played 2 practice rounds. That was my first time on property was
Hmm.
that time, and, it's an incredible place. It truly is, one of the most surreal feelings when you walk on property. So when I got to the week of the Masters, I at least had the, the familiarity of being to a place I'd been to, kind of like, the comfort level of, like I was talking about on year 2 on the PGA Tour. I didn't wear myself out. I played 9, 9, and 9.
Okay.
I did good of going 9, 9, and 9 because I had heard of guys. A lot of people told me don't overdo it,
The
and
energy's so high. Like there's so many
it's
fans
so
out
high.
there, and like you just,
Yeah,
it looks like the most fun thing ever. You just want to play like
yeah.
36 if you could.
It's interesting. On like Monday, you're there. They sell the same amount of tickets every day. It's like a tournament. And on Monday, I'm used to,
Ghost town. Yeah.
if I hit a terrible shot, you know, if I want to try out a new swing key for the week on the golf course, I feel comfortable doing it. If I hit it in the tree 100 yards off the tee, that's all right. But there, it feels like you got to hit good shots all week because there's people there watching, and it's just a different. It's so cool though, and I played so bad just the whole week. It wasn't like it was the golf course was too difficult for me. I just played terrible, and it was just kind of sucked because it was such a cool experience, and I wanted to play well so bad. But I think that was part of there was a fundamental issue that going into that week, I was able to manage it in the lower stress moments. But then I think kind of the anxiety of playing the Masters, and I think just kind of exposed that flaw that I had, and I was able to kind of get some work done on the week before, or on Sunday when I left, and I ended up playing really well at Hilton Head the next week. It's a funny game, and it's kind of, I feel like the whole week of the Masters kind of feels like you're playing the final round in the lead. Driving to the golf course, I had that, kind of not pit in my stomach, but that little anxiety driving to the golf course just because I'm playing the first round of the Masters. I'm playing on Saturday at the Masters. It's just or not Saturday, I didn't get to play, but Friday at the Masters.
You missed by one. You didn't play
I
that
missed.
bad.
Oh, it felt like I missed by 100. I chipped it so good. I hit it terrible and putted it terrible, but the chipping kind of gave me a chance. So
It looks like so much fun to play. I know you
it
didn't play
is.
well, but like it
Right.
honestly looks like peak fun you could have in competitive golf.
Yeah.
Even not playing your best, would you classify it as fun?
Oh yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how it's unlike anything we play. Like you can get yourself out of position, but then there's this mound over here somewhere way far away that you can kind of bring it in there and give yourself a chance. It's so different than our typical golf that we play. I'd heard about how much slope there is out there, and how TV doesn't do that justice. So I came in with the mindset of that, so I wasn't so much surprised by that, but I was shocked when I got on the greens. They are. I've never seen that much slope on a green in my entire life, and that's every hole. And then you get to hole 12 and it's dead flat. It's interesting how it's just you get on hole 1, it's like, man, if I hit this beyond the hole by 20 feet long right to the front left pin, that looks like it's right where you want to hit it. But now I've got a putt that I'm playing 12 feet outside right, break and straight downhill once it breaks. I think that's the most difficult part about that golf course is obviously people talk about how small the landing zones are, because if you miss the landing zone and you're still on the green, well, you're still out of position. It's so cool.
That's what I've obviously watched a ton of Masters, and I was fortunate enough this year. I won the lottery to get to play the course on the Monday
Nice.
afterward, and it was so like I got to the Sunday pin was like the left side on the third green, and I was way out of position off the tee, but like could barely get one onto the right side of the green, and I had this putt that I was like, I've never seen this before anywhere.
Right.
Like, and like you've played greens that tilt from back to front. I've never played one that tilted from right to left that hard, and just had these elements of I don't know how to describe it other than like every hole you finished, you're almost like, I want to do it again, because I would know if I was 10 yards further left in this spot, I could hit it here. And I'm hitting back up the slope and all of this. And it was like, even only playing it once was like, holy crap, this is what everyone talks about with like learning this golf course and seeing it in competition, and like why the first timers don't win. Like all of it like came to fruition in just one round of like, this is exactly why. And it felt fun too. It's like the best way of getting your ass kicked.
Yeah. Like I think 3 greens, so cool how that front left section, it's slopes so hard right to left. If you're right at the pin, it's straight downhill. But then also that's a little turtle shell right there too. Like if you get it too far right, then it starts breaking away. I think so crazy about that place and so cool is you can hit a putt that is 3 inches from being a tap in, and you can just completely embarrass yourself if it goes on the other side, because it'll start breaking the other way. It's what I think is awesome too is like on a par fives, if you're out of position, you have to lay up. Like how the fairways are huge on the layup options, like 13 and 15. You've got 100 yards, but you have to hit it into the small sliver to have a chance to go at the pin. You know, like on 15 to that center pin, you try to lay it up as far left as you can, get it as close to those grandstands on the left side, but the other time you're aiming 100 yards right of that to the right side of the fairway to get the angle into the left pins. It's such a cool place because it's kind of wide, but it plays so small.
People go, I already did a 2-hour podcast talking about my whole round, but it was like the shot I spent the most time on was I was in the left trees on 15 and figuring out where to lay it up. And I ended up playing, I had that Sunday pin. I played it down the left and it left it in this awesome spot. I'm looking right up it. But then it was like, all right, if I overspin this, it's coming back in the water. And if I don't get the spin I'm expecting, it might go long onto that back fringe and it's not coming back. And that's death. And it's just.
And then you're chipping it in the water.
Exactly. It's just like, holy crap, the layers upon layers of that place. And, but you can also see like guys like Tiger that have learned their way around it and know how to play the slopes and know it like the back of their hand and know all 4 pin positions and know where to miss to all 4. You know, with just this, it's etched in your memory. You can totally see how you can just gain. You can be a horse for course for that place.
For sure. Yeah, and it's interesting. Like we have the same exact yardage book. The same guy makes our yardage book every week. You know, so we get really comfortable with how our yardage book layout is. You know, we got. Takes me 2 seconds to get the number to the front of the green into the hole and where the slope is, you know, every week on tour. And you get there and the yardage book is very minimal. There's not a whole lot of information on it. There's no slope, you know, there's no adjustment for anything. And, you know, you don't get lines off the tee. There's no run out lines. It's just, you get this book with not much information. It's kind of your job to I think, keep the same book over the years and just make sure you have all the same information and get your run out lines and get, you know, past experience on that book, because that book this doesn't have much.
Well, and then it's also another layer of, you tell me, do you guys practice this stuff or do you have this information? Like, all right, the shot into 9, if off the downslope, it's coming out of a different window. Is it going farther? Because it's going uphill. Shot into 2. If it's launching lower, is it going to carry farther? Is that going to all of this? And hey, if you're wrong by just a couple yards, you're on the wrong tier of the green and you're toast. Like it's such an exact science.
Someone asked me about, you know, when I went and played those 2 rounds before during the week of Houston, was what was my like take on the golf course. And I thought there was probably 4 or 5 holes that were exactly what I thought they were. And then the rest of them were completely different than I thought. And hole 9 was definitely one of them. It's shocking how much that green sits at, like, you know, this angle. It's not, it kind of just looks like you're hitting up a hill on TV, you know, that those bunkers are kind of left. No, you're taking it over those bunkers off a cut downhill lie to a green that wants to take a draw. You know, it's just, it's the perfect design. It's incredible.
You guys were playing 40-mile-an-hour winds in it too.
Yeah.
Like, that was just.
Yeah, I had a constant sandstorm on 18 when I was putting out. It was just blowing straight in my face.
Everything up at that top spot, 9 and 18 and then 10 and 1 tees was just like, holy, I know they did a great job on TV, like illustrating how much the wind was blowing, but even then people's hats were flying off. I mean, it was, I've never seen anything at a golf tournament I've attended in person. I've never seen wind like that. It was insane.
Yeah. We were talking about, I live in Oklahoma. I mean, we get wind, and I was telling Stone whenever we were playing on Friday, I was like, I think if I was at home, I probably would have taken today off. Like, I think this is borderline too much wind to where I wouldn't have gone and even played.
So is it, you know, with the win, now you've played in a Masters, I'm wondering, do your goals change like for the rest of the year? Like, is there anything that's dangling that you're like, all right, if I get this, the rest of this year is going to be pretty good? I might have a guess as to what that might be, but what would that be?
I kind of got 2 things that I really, really want to do. I want to make East Lake, you know, that's kind of, and then.
You're 30th right now for the listeners.
Yeah, I'm on the number. I'm the bubble guy right now. I think it'd be really cool to play the President's Cup. Obviously, I think last Ryder Cup kind of maybe helped that case somehow. You know, taking a young guy that doesn't have a whole lot of experience. You know, the European team did that and they had a lot of success. And I hope, you know, kind of, you know, for my sake, I hope they kind of have the same mindset this season. And getting involved in those team events seems so fun.
What were your opinions on the signature events, both before you were in them and now that you're in them? What's your opinion on them?
Yeah, that's changed. Yeah, I mean, it, it's funny. I mean, I was kind of against them whenever, I was on the outside, just because, it seemed like if you were in them, how can you lose your card? How can you do any, there's more points, there's more, all that stuff. And now, obviously, when I'm in them, hey, I love them. They're great. But, I was kind of always where, I think obviously play for more money. That's fine, no big deal. I was just upset with how many more points they got, just for those events. But now that I've played in a couple, I mean, they're so competitive. You know, it is the top 70 players in the world. I mean, they're like I played pretty well at. We were talking about it in Hilton Head, and I finished 17th, I think. I was like, man, I felt like I played kind of like I would have finished 17th in a full field event with a full 156 person field. I still felt like that's kind of what I would have finished. You're just playing against the best players in the world, and it's hard. Obviously, not too hard for Scottie, but hard for the rest of
I was
us.
gonna say your case though almost it makes kind of my position on it feel a little stronger in that like, hey, play
Hmm.
good golf, you can get in them, right? I mean, like
Right? Yeah.
it's almost every the part that makes it hard is there's sponsors exemptions, so a few sponsors
Yes.
exemptions, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, you'd say like it's not a pip, it's not a popularity contest.
No.
It's
Mm-mm.
if you played great last year and you're in the top 50, you get into
Yeah.
all these events the next year, and they've modeled it out. We'll see what it ends up shaking out at as to how many people fall out, how many people
Right.
get in, but it would be a problem if guys like you that didn't have great weeks and play their way into them were not able to get
Right.
up into them and compete in them. And if it
Yeah, they're
was
still
close enough,
giving out,
yeah,
what is it, 15 spots every event for the guys who are playing well that season. That's a lot of spots.
yeah.
You got is it the next 10 and then the swing five? I think that's how they phrase
You,
it. And,
you tell me.
there's,
I'm
I
confused
think,
on it
I
all.
think
That sounds right.
I think that's how it is. I think there's 10 spots for the next 10 guys on the FedEx Cup. And then there's five guys from the most recent events, so, there's still a way into them. And if you're playing well, you're going to get into them. And, it's, but they're really fun, and the events really, really are taking good care of the players. And I mean, it is the best players in the world.
Again, all this stuff is new to you, and you're kind of entering a changing landscape here. But the
Hmm.
equity that was just doled out to PGA Tour players, and kind of this dangle that's out there now to say like $100 million is going to go out annually to 20
Hmm.
guys, and the opportunities for future ownership of PGA Tour enterprises. You're young, so if that stuff
Yeah,
is maybe not, I don't want to say over your head, but not on your
it
radar.
is.
Okay, I was gonna say like, is it on your radar at all, or are you just like, dude, let me just play golf. We'll figure the
I,
rest
I'm
out.
I've been that way this
Yeah,
whole time period. Really, you know, just play golf. It's over my head. I can understand it, but I don't think I don't want it to be my main focus. Going out there, I just when I get to play well. That's kind of was always what we said. Whenever I had conditional status on the Corn Ferry Tour 2 seasons ago, was if I get an opportunity to go play well, and I've just kind of kept that same mindset. Obviously, there's a lot of great things going on. More money being involved in the game, and luckily I'm in a time where I'm going to benefit that. And the better I play, the more whatever I'll gain more, and that's just kind of keeping that same mindset though. For I put my head down and play well, it'll work out okay.
I always wanted this. Like, of how old are you? Are you 25? You're 25. Okay,
25,
yeah.
yeah.
Like if I'd have had $1 million, million plus bucks hit my bank account at age 25, I'd have done some dumb stuff. I just would have. What is it like to have so early on in your career, just like have financial success? Does it
Yeah,
change anything about your lifestyle? Have you just? I'm just always curious how
yeah.
that works for young guys.
Not really. I mean, it's probably a benefit that I was playing the next week and the next week after that,
Yeah,
to where I didn't, as soon as I finished and I won, I went straight to, I drove Monday evening to Arnold Palmer. And then, I wasn't in the Wednesday Pro-Am, so I had to play 18 holes on Tuesday to see the
oh
golf course.
God,
So it was, and it was just a beat down that week. That golf course is
yeah.
so hard. And then I went to the Players Championship. So it was like, never really had a moment for it to sink in. When I got home, the golf club I play at, Oak Tree National, had a party for me, and it was like it almost felt a little too late, at that
Yeah.
point. But it was still fun. But yeah, I think obviously it's great to play a sport and to have it be my income and be the way that support my family and stuff. It's cool and all, but I try not to focus on that
Yeah.
aspect too much.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's probably the most certainly the right mindset. But what's something that surprised you about tour life? I want you to give me one on course thing, one off course thing of something that maybe you just didn't know about tour life. Kind of putting you on the spot with this, but I'm sure you can come up with something.
On the golf course, I'd probably say Man, I have no idea, man. On the
You
golf
kind of answered
course,
it earlier with the chipping,
surprise.
like some of the chipping
Yeah, I'd
stuff.
say the
That yeah,
chipping. Yeah, if I was talking about just like the skill
yeah,
level of the guys, and I'd say main thing is how many different games there are.
yeah.
And a lot of guys like when you're playing college golf, you think everybody on the PGA Tour just stripes the absolute shit out of it, and they just a lot of guys don't, and they're just good. They just manage their way around the golf course, and they hit it good enough, and they chip it good enough and putt it good enough, and I'd say that's what I was most surprised about is just how many different levels of the game of golf there are, and that we all shoot the same scores. Someone excels in this, someone excels in something else, and there's just so many different ways to do it. And then, especially with distance too, there's guys hitting it so far, and then there's guys that just aren't very long, but they're really good with their long irons, and it's just there's so many ways to play this game.
Do you ever get tempted
And
by other people's styles of like, gosh, I'm making this. He does this way more simple,
oh
and
yeah,
I'm trying to flush everything here, but he's kind of
yeah,
slapping it around. I've heard of guys going through that in early years too, of like just almost imposter syndrome
yeah.
of other playing styles.
Yeah, I was doing at Hilton Head. I was hanging out with Lucas Glover, and he said we're all just a bunch of copycats, and it's so true. And I kind of struggled with that last season, where I kind of like to work the ball both ways and hit it, hit up, bring the flight up, bring the flight down, try to hit a shot every time, and then you'll play with a guy that just cuts it every single time, only hits cuts, and I'm like, then I start thinking, man, am I going to be more consistent if I just start hitting one ball flight, and then then I'll try it out and, play well or play terrible, but then, kind of go back to the idea that we all do it our own way. But I think Lucas Glover is exactly right. We're all a bunch of copycats. You'll see some guy doing some drill on the putting green, and next thing you know, you'll see three guys doing it the next week because that guy played well. It's pretty funny. I'm trying to think of my off the golf course thing that surprised me. I mean, obviously the travel. I just have to go. Growing up, college golf you played every once in a while, and like I was saying earlier, amateur golf you play every once in a while, and then you play 4 weeks in a row, and your job starts Monday. It's not like we start on Thursday when the tournament starts. So it's a full week event, and
Does your wife travel with you too?
she goes to probably 9 out of 10,
Yeah.
or I mean, she's there pretty much every week, and she's on the Tour Wives board now. She's full in now.
Well, that's another just element too of just arranging travel for two people when you got to change
Yeah.
a flight, two people, and go to a Monday
Yeah.
finish. Everything like it is. I know they got people that'll help with those kind of things, but that's the
For
stuff
sure.
that
Yeah.
people don't really think about that often. But
Right.
what kind of working backwards here? We didn't really start with background. We had so much recent stuff for you to cover, but
Mhm.
kind of give me an idea of how you ended up at Oklahoma State and kind of what your junior career was like. And I know a lot of people know you from those famous Oklahoma State teams and who you played with on
Yeah.
those teams, but kind of the path to getting there. And I'm curious kind of what that team environment was like and contributed towards your pro success.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I grew up an Oklahoma State fan. Me and my dad used to go to pretty much every football game growing up, and would go to every time Oklahoma State hosted a regional or something like that, we'd go to the event. I always wanted to play there, and I was fortunate enough to be good enough to go and play, and then also to have great teams when I was there was just awesome. We had a really, really close team. Matt Wolf and I were best friends, and we still are now. And Victor and I are really close. Zach Bosher and I play golf together pretty much every day I'm home. Chris Ventura, I haven't stayed as much in touch with as I'd like, but he's in Florida and I'm in Oklahoma. So Sam Stevens, who's now on the PGA Tour, and we got several guys on the Corn Ferry Tour right now trying to battle it out. And one of my teammates is now the assistant coach at Oklahoma State. I've got them all over the place, and luckily I've stayed in touch with most of them. But we're all trying to do our own thing. We're playing all across the world right now, and got guys on the Challenge Tour, DP World Tour, Live Golf, PGA Tour. It's just that team was incredible, and it was just such a fun experience to be around. I had two great golf coaches, and for us to win the national championship in 2018 at home was one of the, still probably the highlight of my golf career so far. It was just because it's such a cool environment winning with your boys, and just and at home with everybody watching. It was so cool.
Well, yeah, it's wild too. Just thinking, I was curious to ask, like, if you're playing with Matt and Victor in college,
Mhm.
obviously, and seeing them, like, are, you beat them plenty of times, and
Yeah.
but if you end up as the number, kind of the number 3 guy, I guess, behind those two, there's an element of them raising your level of play and competitiveness.
Right.
You see this day in and day out, or at the same time, like, is it discouraging at all to see these freak talents
Right.
right directly next to you the whole time? I'm wondering what that kind of relationship was like.
I think for me, I've always felt like I was just one step behind. Like I
Mm.
wasn't far, I was just one step behind. And I knew that once I made that jump, I could, be doing what they're doing. And I think a big comfort to me too after my sophomore year when they both turned professional was their immediate success. If they would have gone out and struggled and they were clearly better than I was in college, I would have been, I would have like I think I mentioned it earlier, but I've been like, man, I got some serious work to do. But to see them go and have immediate success, and I knew my game was close to theirs, and I just needed to make, a couple small steps, and I would have been there. And that was a huge comfort level for me because I knew I could do what they were doing, and it just, But to see them have success was the comfort level for sure. But like as you were asking, the beatdown was getting annoying for sure. I think my sophomore season, I think Victor won 4 times, Matt won 6 times, and I won once. And I won once, and Victor wasn't playing that week. So Matt finished second though, so I did beat Matt.
At that age, like, and at that, like, phase of like kind of golf development, are you learning things specifically from them? I know it's the PGA
Oh
Tour's
yeah.
copycats, like, and I'm just kind of curious as to what, for me personally, like playing with good players is just
Hmm.
totally transformed my game over the course of like a
Yeah.
2-year period of just like when you watch 3 dudes just hit these stripes, your instinct is just like, okay, I'm going to go do that. Versus there is something to golf of playing down to your competition, and I'm curious, kind of what some of those things you would have either learned or gleaned from them in those times.
Yeah. Hey, it was fun too because they did it a different way.
Yeah.
2 very unique golf swings. One, they had, Matt's the big loop and hits it a mile, and then you got Victor who's just, very consistent and he hits it further now than he did then. He's continued getting longer and longer. Cool to see, like what I was talking about earlier on the PGA Tour is, they had two completely different ways of doing it, and we're doing it really well. And then, I did it a different way from them as well. And, but you learn a lot from playing with them. Just, yeah, like you said, you play up to your competition and you play down to your competition. It seems like, I've gotten in several match play scenarios where it turns into a pillow fight pretty quickly because we're both playing poorly.
Yeah.
But, if you get in a match play situation, both guys are 600, you're just going crazy and winning and making birdies. But I think every day going out, we, play little matches. And, that was such a big benefit for me for sure.
I've heard you be described as a very confident person, but has no ego. I'm wondering what your relationship is with like the mental side of golf, like a sport that will beat you down this hard.
Yeah.
How do you stay confident, and kind of what your relationship is with confidence, and how that leads and breeds to good play?
Right. That was a cool or not explanation, but, describing feature. That's, hmm. I think with golf, I've got a pretty good mindset. I think I've got a good head on my shoulders. I've never really been a guy who loses my mind out there or gets too up. I'm never too high, never too low. And, I think with the confidence level, I think, I put in the time. I practice. I really feel like I put in the proper, work ethic and preparation, and I'm able to get out to a tournament and know that I've done the work now. It's just now I just got to perform. I've always felt comfortable in the situation of being under pressure. I think that's whenever you lean back to that preparation and all that stuff, and me just not ever losing my cool out there really keeps me in that same mindset. But I'm that way in every aspect of life too. I rarely ever get mad, and I think that's kind of a benefit towards my mental state all around. But on the same side, I never get too up. So just really mellow out there, keep it calm. And I think it's cringy when guys throw fist pumps unless they're winning, but stuff like that. So just different stuff. But
Tell me about Stone. Your
yeah,
caddy. As I understand, a long time best friend. As I also understand it, Stone is his real actual name.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Stone and I have been best friends for shoot probably upwards of 10 years now, 12 years now. And it's funny how it worked out. We never planned on him caddying for me. It was just he caddied for me every once in a while in amateur events, and then I played Mayakoba that I brought up earlier in my senior year of college, and asked if he wanted to caddy, and we finished 12th. So I was like, oh, maybe we should consider doing this. It's been a really fun journey. I mean, golf's a lonely sport, especially if you don't have anybody out there with you. But you know, my wife travels, like I said, 9 out of 10 weeks, and I got my best friend on the bag, and my dad's my swing coach. So it's just a full blown. I think it's huge for me just with having people around me that I trust and that are supporting me 100%. And you know, Stone and I have got a great relationship. He's might be y'all's biggest fan, the No Laying Up podcast. He whenever I think we were at Pebble Beach, and I think he saw you at Pebble Beach maybe in 2021 or 2022. Were you guys out there by
I was
chance? I
there
think it was
last year.
Pebble.
Yeah, I got to play 2023, and we were here. We were there
Okay,
this
I
year.
wasn't there in 2023. Maybe
Oh,
it might have been a different
okay.
tournament. I forget where it was, but he was nervous. He saw you guys and got nervous. He was gonna say something, couldn't do it. And I was like, dude, you're around celebrities all day long. Like we play pro-ams. He's like, yeah, but like I listen to those guys all the time. So it's pretty funny. And so you guys are the only guys that ever made him nervous. So
I don't know how that makes me feel. That makes me a little uncomfortable. But tell us about Sally too. You guys are, as I understand, you've known each other for a very, very, very long time. Reconnected later in life, is that right?
yeah, so Sally and I,
Later in life,
we
you're
grew up.
25. There is no later in life
Yeah,
for
so
you.
yeah,
Yeah,
later in
yeah,
life. Yeah, no. So we went to the same. It was like Mother's Day out. You know, well, when we're under 2 years old,
yeah.
and our families were really close. We stayed in touch till we were, you know, 9 or 10. Stuff happens. You know, they moved cities, and I went to public school. Went to school in Edmond, and you know, our family just kind of grew apart. Nothing bad happened. Just you know, growing up,
Sure.
and we hadn't talked for 10 years or so, and we rekindled between sophomore and junior year of college, and pretty quickly we kind of realized that you know this was going somewhere, and like I said, a blessing to have her with me the whole time, just because it's a lonely journey, and she's the best, and it's just been a really fun journey for us too.
Fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, we appreciate you spending your one off week with us. You here as you get ramped up for 4 more, and we are appreciative of or congratulations, I guess, on all your success, and keep it going, man. It's exciting to watch, and
Yeah.
at least we know not to follow any course history for you. For anyone out there that's trying to, you've always been in a lot of my picks as we've made over the years. I never know when you're going to play well. It's good to know also
It's just all over the
that you
place.
don't know that you don't know either. So
I don't know either.
that's one
No,
takeaway I'll have. But
we
yeah.
we make the joke a lot. I'm either gonna have it or I'm not gonna have it, and that's simple as that.
That's a
So
great way to play pro golf, though. Like,
yeah, it is.
a
It is.
solo fifth and a miscut is better than two T45s. It really is.
It is. It is.
It absolutely.
Yeah.
That's got to be a hard thing to learn. I would think of like.
It mentally, it's a lot better to make a lot of cuts, though.
I'm sure.
You feel better about yourself,
I'm
but
sure.
yeah. But for whenever you look back on the season, those fourth and fifths are the top tens are really all that matter.
All right, we'll keep hoovering up those points in those
Yeah.
signature events now that you're in them, and
Perfect.
we look forward to we'll do this again down the road. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
Cheers. For FanDuel, you must be 21 and older or 18 and older in D.C. and present in select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, D.C., Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, and Vermont. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.